Hey everybody, welcome back to Cards and Capital. If this is your first time visiting the channel, we take poker money, we invest it into the stock market to turn it into more money. Currently the balance is this amount, just over $29,000, so we're almost a third of the way to the goal of $100,000 in the account. But we have this problem. We talked about it in the last episode. We've invested too much too quickly this year. We've capped out the amount we can add, and so now we got to figure out where else to put it. What we decided is we're going to take a trip, so we're going to put half the money towards the trip. You guys also, though, said don't just do a trip, and so I'm also going to throw some money at a couple other things. It looks like on this one, we're going to throw it at collectibles. So we'll see what our win is. If we get a win, half of it going to a trip, half of it going to collectibles. Let's get to the poker room.
Life, I'm never so packed for the stack, never lied on the rap, got a bag from the way that I write it. Queen looking Tyson, do that ass survive, doing 80 to the house, then I hit it to the sky, change haters on a tirade, talking to their grip in the face, be still, let that hate stuff fade. We all want the same.
Every good poker session contains a couple of freebies. Hands where you don't have to do much and the money's just going to come your way. This is one of them. Pocket aces early on is always a good start. It's like finding $50 in your pocket, and then when you go to put it in your wallet, finding another $50 sitting in your wallet. Ka-ching! There's a limp, a raise to $25, and I make it $85. We're in a good game as the limper and the original raiser both make the call. My opponents are both looking disappointed in what they see, and they check. That's good because I'm also disappointed in what I'm seeing here. I don't really want King X on the board when they've called a big 3-bet like this. I think they're gonna have enough representation in kings that they're gonna hit this board. But based on their body language, looks like neither of them have it. I throw out a bet of $100, and they both quickly fold. This puts us up to $110, which means $55 going towards a collectible. Looking through the options here, it looks like we can get a signed Archie Manning card. Now, I wasn't around when Archie Manning was playing, so my appreciation of this man is kind of for his kids. For what he made, in other words. I watched both of his kids play, thought they were great and fun to watch. For that reason, I'm not really buying this card for what he did on the football field. I'm buying it for other achievements he made in other locations, if that makes any sense. Feels like a very weird reason to buy a card. Let's keep playing and try to find something a little different. Unfortunately, I lose a couple of bomb pots where I had enough to continue, but didn't win, and my stack dwindles down to $806. That means we now have $3 to spend on tiny ceramic Dutch shoes. Comment below if you also collect tiny Dutch model ceramic shoes. Let's keep playing. I'm positive we can do better than that. The same player that folded the flop when I 3-bet with aces is raising again to $20 over a limp. Chances are that since we are facing the same scenario as last time, and he's going smaller, that this hand is slightly weaker. I raise to $70 with the slippery little ace-5 of diamonds. The hand gets more interesting as the cutoff now makes a very surprising min raise to $120. This is a very strange raise, but I'm not going to go anywhere for $50. There's so much money in the pot already, and I'm really not having to pay a very high price to continue. I toss in the call, and we're off to a very schmedium 8-10 jack that can be scary for all the bigger hands that raise pre-flop. I check as I would with pretty much my entire range. Opponent checks behind. Turn is the king of clubs, making the board even more scary. Now it's getting scarier for me as this is going to hit my opponent pretty hard. I check again, and opponent checks again. Now the river is the 9 of diamonds. I was rooting for a queen to show up on the river, but now I'm going to rep that I have one since there's a 4-liner to the straight sitting on this board. I fire for $150, looking like I'm begging him to call me, and opponent releases his hand pretty quickly. The stack increases back up to $920. We bought in for $800, so we're up $120, meaning we have $60 to spend. Let's go back to eBay and see what we can find. So with $60, we can now afford this item, which appears to be the first ever peanut butter and jelly sandwich that a child wouldn't eat, and it was thrown out only to become petrified. It's listed as Crystal Cluster. Clearly this is a petrified PB&J. I think we can do better. Let's keep playing. Let me show you how to steal a pot. My opponent is starting to get annoyed that every time he gets involved, I 3-bet. So let's push that button one more time. Another player opens to 15. He calls. I make it $75. Early position calls, the cutoff calls. Flop is fine for my 3-bet range and not great for anything other than King X or a spade draw. It checks to me and I fire $110. Early position calls, cutoff folds. The turn doesn't help at all, but forget the cards for a minute. I just want you to watch the player's body language. Now, I don't normally spend a lot of time talking on body language, especially with players that I play with often, but in this case, I'm just going to share it with you. It's kind of an easy one and a common one that you'll see with more casual players that aren't trying to control themselves at the table. Let's take a look at what he's doing here. My opponent takes a while and then checks, but watch what his body posture does. He doesn't take an interested posture as though he's leaning in, watching intently, paying attention to what I'm doing, curious to see. Let's say he had a real hand and he was in a tough spot where he was deciding to bet or to check call, trying to kind of figure out what his options might be. He's probably going to be very interested to see what I do. However, when you're checked out of the hand and you feel like, okay, it doesn't really matter what happens, I'm done, you're going to take a posture more like this, which says, all right, I give up. It's over. I'm done. I won't just make wild moves based on this body language, but if you can start to see that, you want to try to check for that or verify it. So I'm going to go ahead and ask him how much he has left in his stack. I'm really doing this not so much because I care about the chips. I already have a good idea of what he's holding in his chips, but I just want to see how he responds and kind of check, see if I can get a little more information. Now watch how he responds. He's going to respond with body language that kind of says like, dude, why are you wasting my time? What are we doing? We both know this is over.
Can you just let go of your chips for a sec just so I can see kind of where I'm at?
Now, it's kind of a weird thing for him to project that unless he really is feeling it, right? Like, he's either very intentionally trapping me, which almost nobody does at low stakes, or he is legitimately done. So he gives me the kind of like, all right, yeah, here's what I have. Like, what are we doing here? Let's get this over with. That confirms where I think I'm at, and now it's pretty easy to just throw out a bet on the larger side and see if I can get him to fold. I bet $300 and he folds pretty quickly. With that hand, the stack moves up to $11.35, and now our budget allows us to afford a genuine autographed William Shatner card, with what I can only assume is the underwear band from a pair of briefs that he wore while filming on an episode of Star Trek. As appealing as it is to own William Shatner's underwear card, as appealing as it is to own what I can only assume is a William Shatner underwear card, I would still like... As appealing as it is to own a piece of William Shatner's underwear, William Shatner's underwear. As appealing as it is to own a piece of William Shatner's briefs, I would like to see if we can keep playing and do slightly better. Next, I open up Ace-10 offsuit from the cutoff and the button in the big blind call. Flop is nice for our hand, and I continue for $20. The button throws in the call. The turn is the 7 of clubs. That shouldn't change much. I toss out $35 looking for lighter calls from weaker holdings such as a worse 10x, draws, or an unbelieving pocket pair. He tosses in the call a second time. The river is gin. The 10 of clubs brings in the flush and gives us top boat. I now fire on the larger side, knowing that if I'm going to get called light, it will need to look bluffy or be another strong hand that's worse than mine. I put $125 out there, and it has the exact effect that I'm hoping for. After a tank, my opponent decides that I'm telling the truth, and he lets it go. Nice fold, opponent. With that win, we can now afford an Eddie George signed helmet. We're moving up in the world. We're no longer buying underwear. I like that. Then I win a small bomb pot, followed by a bomb pot where I flop the pair and flush draw to give back a small profit, and now we're back to the Eddie George signed helmet again. Next, I get a suited ace in the small blind. Early position raises to $15, and most of the table calls. I'll throw it in and hope to hit the flush. Flop is fine as I hit top pair, but I have to be very cautious here, and I start with the check. Hijack is an aggressive player and bets $40. I call, and everyone else folds. Turn is the 7 of diamonds, and I check again. He bets $75, and once more I'm going to be calling here. This board has some draws, and again, my opponent is one of those players who can get a little bit out of line. I'll be folding if the club shows up on the river, as that's just going to bring in too many of his bluffs in this spot. River, however, is a napkin. I check, and he's going to choose to just check back and give up. Turns out we're good here. Stack moves up to $1,400, giving us $600 in profit. Half of that would be $300 to go spend on a collectible. Let's see what we've got here. That's a lot of tiny ceramic shoes, but we could also acquire Batman comic number 22, which appears to feature a very flamboyant Sherlock Holmes as the villain. Gotta say, I would still like to do better than this, so we're going to keep fighting. Now pocket queens arrive. I raise to $15, getting one player to call. The flop is about as ugly as you can imagine for these cards. Ace King 5 brings in 2 overs, even though it's a rainbow board. Opponent checks, and I'm going to check behind for more information. Turn card doesn't change much, and he now bets $15. I've under up my hand, so I'm going to call pretty quickly, see how he approaches the river. River's the 3 of clubs, he fires $50. Now, it's extremely unlikely that we're going to call and see good news here based on this line, so even though I'm going to be beat some amount of the times and folding to a bluff, I think most of the time this is value. I'm going to let it go. As the night goes on, I'm really the only one 3-betting with anything other than the goods pre-flop, so when a tiny pocket pair comes along, I limp in to see a flop cheaply. It gets raised to $15, there are several colors, and I'm joining for that price. Check this out. A third duck shows up on the pond, and it's time to pile some money in. Checks to the button, who bets $20. Big blind calls, I call, player behind me calls. Turn is an absolutely beautiful ace of spades. I check again. Button bets $50 this time. I raise it up to $125, and he's going to make a call. River's the 8 of clubs, which is great, because it doesn't change much for a decent ace that doesn't want to let go. I lead out for $250, but this time my opponent makes the fold. Unfortunately, we did not get a call of the river bet, but we are sitting on $1,700 in the stack now. $450 to work with on eBay. Now we're getting into some cool stuff. Check out this very sexy Justin Jefferson numbered rookie patch auto. Yes, sir! That will look nice on the wall. Hopefully we can hold on to this amount or maybe do even better. This next hand ends up being really important to the night, and it also showcases the importance of paying attention to hands when you're not involved. My opponent's been really wild, super aggressive. I'll kind of explain some of his plays as we go, but I've been watching him make very, very aggressive plays throughout the night when I'm not involved, recognizing that he's getting involved too often, and the only way for him to keep up when he's playing too many hands is to be extremely aggressive and hard to predict, so that he gets paid really big when he hits it, and he gets more folds on average by being that aggressive, so he's able to play more hands. With that in mind, let's go to this one. I get king-queen offsuit in the big blind. There's a limp and a raise to $15. 2 calls, then it's on me. This hand plays like trash out of position in multi-way, so I either need a fold or I'm going to raise. I decide I'm going to make it $120 because I've got so much dead money out there. Let's just take this dead money down pre-flop. The wild man surprises me by calling the $120. That's a huge step up from 15, so I'm surprised that he was willing to make this call, but now we're off to a flop with a guy who's capable of almost anything. You want an interesting spot? Open-ended and 2 overs in a huge pot with a psycho. Woo! It doesn't get much better than this. I check. He bets $85, and this is my window to Outmaniac the maniac. I raise $300. Watch him fold like a chump once he realizes that... Oh crap. The turn just makes this complicated hand even weirder than before. I hit top pair, but the draw comes in at the same time. I check. He bets $300 again. This is where watching his habits from earlier are really going to pay off. I watched him play single card flush draws like he had the nuts several times throughout the night up to that point where he fired every single street. That's in the back of my mind as I'm making decisions here. I call again. River, I check again when the 6 of spades shows up, and he throws out another $300. Snappy call with a single chip toss. It's all in the wrist, baby. He shows 8-10 offsuit when I table my hand. This pile of chips is coming my way. Let's go shopping. Check out this chip castle. Now up to $2,600. It means we have $900 of buying power. We have some very interesting choices here as we can now get a Jamar Chase rookie patch auto, a gold chain, status baby, this rare Magic the Gathering card, big money nerding out, a 1940s dog food statue, which is somehow worth the same amount as a gold chain, or we could go full Dr. Frankenstein and purchase the vintage shock therapy machine. Ooh, you know, I've always wanted one of those. But the session isn't over. Let's see where we end up. Could we go even higher from here? On to the next hand. Next, I raise in position with ace-queen offsuit. I get 2 callers. I flop top pair and it checks over. I bet very small for $25. The small blind raises to $65. When we bet so small like this on the flop, it's very common that we're going to get raised, and I'm going to stick around. Opponents can be doing this with almost any cards because of the bet sizing. The turn doesn't change much, and my opponent bets $100. I make the call. On the river, he bets $200. I tank for a long time on this card, but I think that it's a pretty easy fold. I felt like I was beat. The solver throws in the call more often than it folds ace-queen here, but that assumes that our opponent bluffs at a fairly high frequency. And I just don't know that my opponent is actually check raising, even though it was small, and then continuing 2 additional streets. I think this is one of those spots where in a live game, I should be folding way more than I'm calling. I called, and he shows that he flopped the straight and gets me to pay him off. I'm starting to feel like I'm not playing my best poker here anymore, as I'm talking myself into plays that people probably aren't going to be making at the table very often. That's usually a sign that it's time to go. So I decided to rack it up. Let's just book this win and let's lock in some profit. Final count leaves me up $1,355. That means that I have $675. With that money, I went out and I picked up this card, which at one point in my life I owned for only $20. It's crazy what the market for cardboard has become, and that the returns have been so big, but they've not only been that, they've then held for a long time. So I feel pretty comfy picking it up. I have 3 $45 gift cards, which I'm also going to be giving away on the Patreon. Thanks to the Patreon supporters. If you would like to have a chance to win every time I play poker, sign up for the Patreon down below for just $5 a month. You can be entered to win those gift cards. Patreon members, I will be putting that out there with a spin on the site for you, and then I'll be sending the cards your way. Thanks for being here. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this. If you did, like and sub before you get out of here, and I'll talk to you next time.
To the house, then I hit her to the sky, changed haters on a tirade.